Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Anne O'Donnell.
Thank you for joining us for the highlights of the week. Well, it has been an eventful one, which kicked off with our first story. The power of music. The Scorpions play an emotional show in Paris. A burst of colour, Danish artist Ólafur Eliasson illuminates a baroque palace. And a gruelling adventure, British extreme athlete Sarah Outen circles the Northern Hemisphere. Well, Euromaxx was in France for one of the first major concerts since the Paris attacks. The Scorpions are among the first international rock bands to play a major concert in the French capital since the terror attack that left 130 dead. The Scorpions have a special connection to France, and they wanted to show solidarity with their fans there.
This next song we'd like to dedicate to the victims and their families. This tragedy in Paris.
A moment of reflection at the Scorpions concert in Paris. The band performed an acoustic version of their song Send Me an Angel in memory of the victims of the attacks.
The fans always sing the chorus with us. But we could still tell that tonight had a different dimension. With their thoughts and emotions, everyone tried to incorporate the terrible moments of 11 days ago and establish an emotional connection.
Security was intense at the first major concert in Paris since the November 13th attacks, when most of the victims were killed at a rock concert. The Scorpions initially considered cancelling their show.
If we as a band had decided we won't perform, that's a bad sign. We've always stuck together as a gang of 5 friends who travel the world, make music and build bridges. And right now we're important as bridge builders. When the tragedy happened, it was clear we'd stick together as a band and with our French friends and fans.
The Scorpions and France have long had a special relationship. The band has a loyal following here. That's also evident in the documentary Scorpions Forever and a Day. Co-produced by Deutsche Welle, it's now being released in French cinemas. In 1984, the band performed in Bercy, one of the country's largest venues, shortly after its opening. Their song, Still Loving You, is the most successful single of all time in France and one of the emotional highlights of the evening.
It's a sign of European solidarity. The Scorpions love France.
We wanted to come and took the risk. Security was good. The terrorists won't win.
We'll go on and won't be afraid.
The fans joined together in solidarity again when the crowd began singing an impromptu version of the French national anthem.
Of course, some young people there held up banners that said Bataclan, and they made that direct connection. And it's horrible to think that so many young people who just wanted to have a good time lost their lives at a concert only a few days ago.
So viele junge Menschen ums Leben gekommen sind, die einfach nur gut drauf sein wollten.
The band's biggest hit, Wind of Change, was also in the lineup. Much of the audience of nearly 20,000 sang along in the refrain.
When you go out as a band, you're not afraid. You have your own aura. This was just about humanity, nothing else. Humanity is the only thing that counts.
Rock for freedom. For the band, now marking its 50th anniversary, it's a concert that they and their fans will always remember.
Well, let's head now to Austria for a one-of-a-kind light exhibition in a baroque castle that has put art lovers in a spin. The man responsible for that is Danish-Icelandic artist Ólafur Eliasson. His baroque installation plays with light, mirrors and reflection in a Viennese palace, and it's the first time that the artist has used such an extravagant backdrop for his work, blurring the lines between perception and reality.
This is the stairway of Vienna's Winter Palace. Ólafur Eliasson's installations show the old Baroque palace in a whole new light, literally. He turns the entire building into a contemporary work of art. As is often the case, Eliasson plays with visitors' perceptions.
It encourages us to use our imagination, which is what we need to do. We need to trust our imagination, creativity, and dream world without becoming illusionistic or utopian. We need to believe that things can be fanciful, but at the same time very real.
This installation works with shadows. Visitors find themselves suddenly part of the show. Throughout the exhibition, their senses are repeatedly challenged or called into question. Even the artist is surprised at how different some of his works appear in the palace, like this mobile designed to imitate an orbiting planet.
This room is wonderful. The work has never looked this good. There's so much to see on the walls, and how the light often passes over the pictures. Sometimes it's quite calm, and other times there's lots of movement. It has a wonderful, calm quality about it.
Art collectors Francesca von Habsburg and Patricia Vergés loaned most of the works for the show from their own collections. So the exhibits are not in themselves new. This kaleidoscope from 2001 is normally on display in Buenos Aires, part of the Juan and Patricia Vergés collection.
In my collection, you have the backlight is yellow, and whereas here is red, and it's completely different. It's really nice because it dialogues with the walls of this place, of the Winter Palais. So it's really nice because I see it transformed. It's like another piece in a way.
In 2003, Eliasson transformed London's Tate Modern Museum with a huge sunset, mesmerizing more than 2 million visitors. A vortex and a bath of water was another one of his works, based on the laws of nature. In 2011, he created a rainbow for visitors to walk through at the art museum in the Danish city of Aarhus. And in 2014, he turned part of Denmark's Louisiana Museum of Modern Art into a rocky riverbed.
I don't think my art has one specific central theme. I've worked with many different media: sculptures, paintings, film, photography, installations, architecture, and so on. What I'm interested in basically is people, people in spaces, and spaces around people.
As part of the Baroque exhibition in Vienna, Eliasson set a huge mirror in front of the window, making a semicircular artwork look like a complete ring.
The paintings in this room are military paintings, and they're huge. In a normal room, you can't step back far enough to see the picture properly. But with the mirror, you suddenly see the depth and composition that was used here. So my sculpture in the mirror isn't real, it's just a reflection. But the paintings suddenly look real in the mirror.
Olafur Eliasson's exhibition in Vienna's Winter Palace heightens the senses. And it does exactly what the artist hoped. It shows reality and perception are interchangeable.
Around the World in 80 Days is a classic adventure novel by Jules Verne, and it is a must-read for today's Globetrotters, who seem to be getting younger by the minute. Well, we caught up with one of these brave world travellers who undertook a gruelling world trip. Extreme sportswoman Sarah Outen spent 4.5 years circling the northern hemisphere with a kayak, rowboat and a bicycle. She was determined to push her own limits and simultaneously raise money for charity. And that she did. Now she's back at home in the British capital, reminiscing about the challenging trip.
Sarah Outen crossed the Pacific Ocean from Alaska to Japan in nothing but a rowboat, setting a world record. She spent 150 days at sea, all alone. Outen circled the world by land and sea, using only her own muscle power, by rowboat, kayak, and bicycle. She started out from London in 2011 at the age of 25. 4.5 years later, she returned to the British capital.
It's inspired me, it's nearly killed me on a few occasions, it's taken me to some amazing places of the world and some interesting places in my own character and some really dark places in sort of difficult times. And so to be looking back at the whole journey was quite emotional.
On November 3rd of this year, the British adventurer returned home. Since then, she's been trying to settle back into normal, everyday life. She funded her trip through sponsors and her own savings. It was 2009 when she set her first record at sea.
This journey came from a previous journey which I made across the Indian Ocean, and I found it really inspiring and exciting, and kind of like my mind opened to the possibilities. And also, I think when you do something that has felt really big and difficult to achieve, then it kind of gives you confidence to apply that to something else.
Like going all the way around the world. Her journey of 40,000 kilometers included many critical situations, which she captured on camera.
It's okay. It's okay.
A tropical storm seriously damaged her boat in 2012 and she had to be rescued. She even faced wild animals.
Running away like everyone told us. I'm quite nervous. That's it, bear, off you go! As nice as you possibly can!
Outen crossed 14 countries and 2 oceans, but the wiles of nature were not the worst challenge she had to face.
I think the most dangerous thing on the whole journey has been road traffic. I'm surprised and relieved that I made it home without getting involved in a nasty accident. It was a bit close at times.
Apart from 2 breaks of several months each, she was traveling the whole time. Doctors say her body will need time to recover from the rigors of the past 4 years. She's now receiving muscle therapy at her home near London.
She needs to keep moving because of everything she's been through. She needs to keep everything, all her muscles and limbs just moving and stretched, and maybe some sort of yoga, something like that, just for recovery.
Outen originally studied biology, and during her travels she visited many schools to talk about her adventures. She also kept a blog during her journey with an interactive map so that her blog followers could track her progress.
I got on the bike and cycled up through Alaska, down into Canada, and across Canada.
Sometimes she's hired by companies as a motivational speaker, and she certainly has a wealth of new examples to draw on. She approves of the extreme sports trend and believes it can have real benefits.
I think it's great that people get out and kind of push themselves in the outdoors. I think certainly in Western society we spend a lot of time inside, too much time inside, sitting down at a desk, working, that to take people outside of their comfort zone is a really big, exciting thing.
And she should know. At age 30, Sarah Outen is writing her story in a book entitled Dare to Do. A documentary is also being planned.
So good. Oh, it's delicious.
She has more than enough adventures to share. And her round-the-world trip wasn't just an adventure. She also raised a lot of money for charity.
2 weeks on from finishing, I feel calm and happy and glad to be home, just around friends and family.
But she's still keen to get out on the water whenever she can. Her next trip, she says, won't be solo, but with her fiancé, who she proposed to by satellite phone while halfway across the Pacific.
Well, the British design team Assemble is revamping public spaces in the UK to provide useful architecture for the citizens. Their innovative ideas got them shortlisted for one of the art world's most prestigious awards, the Turner Prize. The collective from London are the first design studio to be named on that shortlist, thanks to their Granby 4 Streets project in Liverpool. We caught up with the team to find out what else they have planned.
These brick buildings in the Liverpool district of Granby are more than a century old. The city planned to tear them down, but the local residents put up a fight. 5 of the houses have already been renovated by a group of London architects called Assemble. They work with the locals to make the district more livable and to preserve its unique character. The Assemble group was nominated for a prestigious Turner Prize this year.
It's the way in which you might go about doing up your own house. So if you look at each of the 5 houses we've done, they're all different. They've all got different extensions, different holes, different windows in them, depending on the kind of life that they'd had before. And it's about not making them generic.
Assemble decided to preserve as much of the original construction materials as possible. And that allowed them to keep the renovation costs down. And the team used those materials in a number of creative ways. This fireplace is made from material taken from abandoned houses. Winter gardens are to be set up in dilapidated buildings, and local residents have a say in all of this.
Well, they listened to us, and that changed because nobody really had before. They'd sort of heard us but hadn't listened.
The Granby project is one of many that Assemble is working on right now. 15 people work here in the group's London office. They built the place themselves. There's no boss. Most of the staff are in their mid-20s, but have degrees in architecture.
We're interested in how everyone can be part of the built environment and have a say in how we live and how we build things. I think we are always concerned with the public space in each project and how accessible what we're doing is as a process and also as a final product.
They've been commissioned to build everything from private homes to city squares. Right now, they're designing a new gallery for Goldsmiths College in London.
I don't think there'll be another art gallery like it in London. The kind of range of spaces. So a lot of the existing spaces being left very, very rough and raw, and then we're kind of dropping in some moments of new structure.
Assemble was formed in 2010 and promptly turned an abandoned gas station into a pop-up cinema. They designed theaters, one under a freeway underpass and another at a festival, and were commissioned to breathe new life into a dreary square in South London.
We started working for other architects, and then we felt a bit frustrated about the division of tasks and lack of kind of holistic understanding of a project. I guess we're keen to address the distance between the way that architects work on kind of computers and using CAD and the way that things are actually being built physically. We just try and experiment whenever we can, where appropriate. So we do a lot of kind of concrete casting and mixing and playing with colour a lot.
Here's a work studio located next to Assemble's office. The facade consists of specially laid concrete tiles. The exterior is colorful, but the interior design is simple. Architecture buffs travel to the site to study the building and take pictures. The team from Assemble built a small concert hall in an empty space in the London borough of Hackney. The walls are made of rubble that was found nearby. Assemble tries to do more with less and to use local building materials whenever possible. It's also important to work with the people who live in the neighborhood.
There is a kind of spirit here, and despite how much it's people try and crush it, you know, it kind of is still here. I think the Turner Prize has been great for this project. Whether or not we're considered artists or not, I guess I mean, we don't have to comment on that, do we?
The Turner Prize is to be awarded next month, and Assemble has a good chance of winning. But the real winners are the people of Granby in Liverpool.
Well, generally, sketches provide a rough idea of how your plans might look like. Often they can be the beginning of a work of art, but not for one Portuguese artist whose sketch-like sculptures actually are the work of art. David Oliveira uses wire to create what looks like drawings suspended in the air. Let's have a look at how his sculptures mysteriously seem to float in their surrounding.
At first glance, David Oliveira's artwork looks almost like sketches drawn in air. But the sculptures are actually made of wire, suspended in space. The Portuguese sculptor has already won several awards. He began experimenting with wire straight out of art school.
I searched a line that could go outside the paper. I was a big fan of drawing, so I connected sculpture and wire seemed the most interesting material to be able to join both.
His work is part of a group exhibition on view at the Carpe Diem Centre for Contemporary Art in Lisbon through December. The historic palace in the center of the city isn't just an exhibition space. For Oliveira, it was also a source of inspiration. And so is the Tagus River, which he calls an important source of strength. His apartment doubles as a studio. Oliveira does his research here and designs the sculptures. Along with wire, he also uses cloth, plastic, and small objects. He makes his sculptures by hand using simple tools. He also wants to use as few natural resources as possible, which is why he uses a minimum of material.
To make a line that surrounds the surface, that's in my mind, and I just go for it. It doesn't have to be a direct process, but usually is. I don't go for the drawing in 2D.
Oliveira's work has also been attracting attention outside Portugal. In 2013, one of his sculptures starred in a Japanese marketing spot. His art teeters between sculpture and drawing. That's also why it was shown at the Casa de Cerca outside Lisbon, which is devoted only to drawing.
He has a sculptor's mind, but sculpture for him is something that he does with a drawing process. So he works with wire as if he were drawing on air.
This game with perspective is something that fascinates many artists. One is French artist Bernard Prat, whose work only comes alive when viewed from the correct angle. That's also the idea behind German street artist Edgar Müller's work, who's known for his 3D illusionist sidewalk paintings. Tim Noble and Sue Webster create works from scraps and rubbish to cast shadow sculptures. The sense of the unexpected is part of the fascination.
I think that's a way to get people attention, for them to realize if they look a bit closer and closer, they will get some other things.
Today, David Oliveira's works sell for up to 6,000 euros a piece. Many have been exhibited internationally. Above all, he wants his art to spark a dialogue.
I would like to see my art in public spaces, for it would be accessible to everyone, One of the characteristics of this work was the idea of children, a public that is not as used to art or an art space.
In his current show, David Oliveira focuses his delicate wire sketches on creatures from the deep blue sea.
That's all we have time for. Thank you for watching Euromaxx. We'll be back next week with more, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.